Excellent. Okay. Let's start with Brad Weigel and Jenny Myers from the Society for Ideas.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having us back. We typically come to you all with a little bit of a pitch on our program and kind of tell you the general ins and outs and then some of the updates, but we thought we'd switch it up this time. And we're actually going to take a second. We'd love to hear from you all. If you're not familiar with us, we are Society for Ideas. We're a program out of the College of Innovation and Design. The easiest way to describe what we do is we teach creativity, things like how to have an idea, how to brainstorm it, how to gather insights from data, how to build apps and websites without code, how to design with non-traditional programs, how to shoot and record a story with your phone, those kinds of things. All of our classes are 7 weeks long. You can take them in any order. We have 10 courses, 3 certificates, and they're all 3 credits each. So super flexible program. I think that's the nuts and the bolts. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. There we go. Can everybody see that okay? Should just have the Society for Ideas mark there. Cool. So instead of us just talking about our program, we actually wanted to hear from you all, and we never get this chance to just hear a little bit about your role and what you all do and the challenges you face when trying to help our students succeed. And we think that by learning a little bit more about you, we can actually maybe do our jobs a little bit better. And so if you wouldn't mind entertaining, this could be a great success or a complete dumpster fire. We're not sure yet. If you wouldn't mind, go to slido.com and then just put in that little code in the bottom left. You should be able to see it right here. If you want to get fancy, you can scan that QR code with your phone and you're welcome to text in your answer. This is all fully anonymous, by the way, so safe space. And then the prompt is right up there at the top. As an advisor, what are the biggest challenges you face in helping your students be successful? We'll give everybody a couple of minutes here to get their answer on paper.
Cole, I see that you're on this call. We interact a lot. Would you hate it if I put you on the spot for that question?
I will. I would love to chat if you want me to. And do you want me to answer it right now?
It's cool. They all funnel in. I didn't know that they're all going to funnel in here. No, that's fine. You can chat it in.
I put one in here. I think for me as an advisor, one of the biggest difficulties is looking at like finances for students. I never talk about finances, but I think for them, it's one of the big, the greatest barriers. So making sure our connection with our colleagues in financial aid, our colleagues in scholarships, to really bring up and talk about any opportunities that we can give our students to be like fiscally okay is important. I think for me, academics are important, but thinking about like Maslow's hierarchy, like safety is really important to me, and just really getting to know my students' needs that way. Because if they don't have food, right, they're not gonna do well in their classes. Some other things that I talked about are like the ideas of prerequisites. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they act as a barrier. What could be taken down, what could allow better access? And the last thing I mentioned was, oh gosh, what was the last thing I mentioned? I'm just gonna put it out there, political climate, and working in this kind of day and age of where there's like fears of the humanities and fears of STEM, and like, how can we make sure our students are comfortable? So, yeah.
That's great.
And I always send students to Society of Ideas, and I email Ben almost every day.
Thanks, Cole. Appreciate it.
Love it.
We'll let a couple more of these roll in here. This is awesome. Thanks for everybody for participating. We always worry about participation activities, so especially on a call this large. So appreciate you jumping in here and giving us something to work with. Cool. Well, as we're finishing up, I don't want to discourage anyone putting any more in here, but I'd love to kick off, and Jenny and Ben are both going to jump in here and provide some advice. couple of things. The finance ones are going to be tricky at the program level for us to influence. But the one thing that I will say that has been helpful for some of our students, not all of them, is all of our courses are 7 weeks long. And so for students that are willing to put in that effort and can commit to 7-week long courses, you're completing your courses a lot faster with us, thus reducing your cost of being at college for longer. So that's just one note. It's a small thing, I know, but it's something that we try to do. We're really conscientious about cost of education and making sure that the time that our students are spending with us is really valuable. So by shrinking the cost or shrinking the time, we can have a small influence on overall cost. So that's one point here.
I was also going to add, Brad,
yeah,
on another really small thing as well is we don't require textbooks for courses. So students aren't having to buy like $100 plus textbooks for our courses.
Yeah, great call.
You're on mute, Jen.
That explains that. I was going to say the same thing, Ben. Yeah, there are no additional outside costs for our courses. Small impact, but
yeah, that's a good one. Scheduling courses, we try to be the most flexible possible. So every one of our courses is offered every single semester. So you never have to worry about the jigsaw puzzle of trying to do spring and fall and those kinds of things. In terms of accessibility, we try to make them open for everyone. So while the university requires us to have sophomores standing or above, if you do have underclassmen, especially freshmen, that would be a good fit for our course, we're happy to give you permission numbers, and you can email Ben directly on this call for those, and we'll happily give those out to you. We'll tackle poor professor relationships. This would break our heart if we ever heard a student say that about us. But we really do. Jen and I started this whole program in 2019 because we just love teaching. And every one of our people at Society for Ideas has one sole focus, and it's about making it the best course that a student could ever take. And we'll go as far as dangerously giving out cell phone numbers and talking to students on the weekends. And we just adore all of our students, and we have such amazing relationships with them. And so if you have a student that really needs that extra attention, we definitely encourage you to look at our program. Lack of resources for first-gen students. Many of our staff at Society for Ideas is first-generation college students, and so we totally get that. And we have this skill range, right? You take one of our courses like emerging technology, where you're learning like 3D printing and artificial intelligence and all of these really complex topics, right? That can be overwhelming to a lot of people, no matter their skill level or no matter their generational gap. And we really break it down into effort-based work. And so we've had students that have come in as programmers at 18 years old, and we've had students come in that are 65 and are trying to do this on an old Android tablet. And we work with all of those skill levels. It does not matter your background or your knowledge. We work with all students to make sure that they find success in our programs. Know who to contact rules. It's pretty simple with us. We actually have a general inbox that a student can email at any time. A student can reach out to one single inbox, and it's on every one of our lessons, every one of our projects. And we have a really great routing system where they email their question right into our centralized inbox. It automatically gets routed to the correct teaching assistant or teacher. And we've got our response times down to 4 hours. So if a student has questions, we're getting back to them really, really quickly. We try to approach our stuff as if it's a product, a modern consumer experience. We don't want to fall into the trap of higher education, and we really try to get back to our students really quickly.
Brad, do you remember, or Ben, do you remember the number of answers we gave last semester? It was like,
I can't remember. We just call them tickets. Just any questions from students or anytime that we have to get back to them. I think last semester we did close to, I think 1,500 or 2,000 of them over the 14 weeks.
Yeah, we have a staff of 14 teaching assistants that's able to run a really tight schedule on responses to students. I'll maybe tackle lack of motivation. One of the things that's unique about our program is everything's project-based. So there's no tests, there's no discussion board type things. It's all projects, and we give a ton of flexibility to a student's project. So for example, in our growth hacking class, a student comes into the course and the very first week is create a company. And the very first week it can be real or fictitious, and you get to create whatever company you want. And then the second week you build a website for it. And the third week you do social media. And the fourth week you do email for it. And you pick up all of these wonderful digital skills that a lot of jobs need nowadays. And that goes for many of our projects in our courses. There's a ton of flexibility in them. I'm going to scroll down here in my presentation. Let's see what this is a great story. Do you want to hit on this story, Jen? Do you want to tell this one?
Yeah, so Jenny Anderson was a student. If anybody pays attention or reads Focus magazine, you probably saw an article that was written about her. She's done some pretty impressive things. So Jenny was a first-gen student who came from a background of pretty severe poverty, and managed to find her way to Boise State, and eventually took some of our classes. And in these classes, she developed this business called Maggie, which was connecting other women who found themselves in low resource environments or in poverty situations. And she helped give them tools to become tech salespeople, which is a really flexible job that you can do remote and from home. And if you have lots of children, and she's turned this into this incredible nonprofit and has been able to help a lot of other women. Was there any other specific detail, Brad, that you are?
No, this was just she's such an amazing student, and to be able to have just the smallest partner story is so cool. But she currently is now a data analyst at IBM, if I remember right. So it's just so fun to be able to follow her story. And there's lots of these. Every one of our projects is really flexible. Lots of encouragement goes into our work, trying to get the best out of students and get them excited about things. This is a student that built a machine learning model in emerging technology. So we taught them how to use a computer and teach a computer how to respond to visuals and sounds and be able to recognize things. So learning the basics of artificial intelligence.
Oh, can I add one more thing, Brad? I think when it comes to student motivation, obviously, there's a lot of that's intrinsic in that individual student. But I think from our perspective, there are a lot of things that us as educators, things that we can do to help encourage that motivation. One of those things is just make sure that they are seen and that they're actually getting a lot of feedback on their projects. We have really high engagement with our students, and we give them a lot of feedback on their projects. They don't simply get a grade or a score. They actually get dynamic engagement. That's where that big staff of teaching assistants comes in. And then there's also a lot of autonomy that our students have with their projects. So they're able to pick things that they themselves are interested in and care about. And I think between those two things, it actually helps a lot with student engagement and student motivation.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, Jen, real quickly. For example, we've had lots of students that'll take, let's say, a capstone project. If you're a mechanical engineering student and you have a capstone project that you have to do, you're already doing it, it's something you're passionate about, you can apply a lot of the projects in our classes and our courses towards that. So if they're already working on it or a side hustle, it kind of helps with that motivation and that they're able to just focus on that.
So just a couple more, I'll rapid fire some of these projects, and that way we can wrap up because I know we've only got a couple more minutes. We've had students where we teach them how to create an NFT and design their own art. We've had students create packaging design, UI app experiences, short form video, and how to create content. And just all do it from their phone. So a lot of really fun projects. And going back to the original, how we got down this rabbit hole was student motivation, how to keep them motivated in their work. We did not get to all of these, but I promise we're going to get through them. And if we have any follow up, I know Ben's going to send a recap note and maybe touch on a couple more of these things. But
Brad, you've got 5 more minutes if you want to take the time.
Yeah, I'd just love to open it up to questions and see if anyone had any questions specifically.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So please just let us know if you have any questions.
I have one. So you all have several programs, and I know that you have fairly good descriptions on the website, but if students are looking for something to add in and they're not really sure, like, do you have any quick things that you use to help people decide like which of your certificates would be the best fit for them?
Yeah, so in addition to the write-ups on the website, we also include every lesson and every project so they can look and see the types of content that they're going to be, that they can expect. We're also happy to share, all of our courses have intro videos, and we're happy to share those. I don't think we have those posted on the website, which might not be a bad idea to include, but we're happy to send those intro videos, which will give students a real feel for the instructor and the types of things that they might come into contact with in the course.
Okay.
Jen, please feel free to send those videos to the invitee list from this meeting.
Okay.
Cool. And then,
I was just going to say that if you post it would be awesome, because I have a huge group of students that always ask about what each certificate can do, what they can do with each certificate, and they are really like curious about that part. So I think that would be awesome if it was in the website.
Oh, fantastic. That's good feedback.
anything else?
Any other questions?
Questions for Jenny and Brad?
I was just gonna add, I don't know if any of you, all of our courses are offered online, and then we do have a few courses that have in-person sections for those that prefer that modality as well.
That was fun. Thanks for having us, and thanks for
All right.
thanks for participating. It was good to see you all, as always.
Thank you very much. And please come back.
Will do. See y'all.
Okay.
Bye.
Next up will be Tom Bailey with updates from the Math Learning Center. Unless Tom's not here. Okay, maybe we will come back to Tom. I know that Michael Drolomek is here. Michael, you ready to give us updates on the Bronco Shop?
Sure. Yeah, I can jump in.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Michael Drolomek. I'm interim director over here at the Bronco Shop. I just wanted to jump in here and share my screen with you all. Just some real quick updates on what we're working on at the Bronco Shop, and how you all can help us, and how we can help you as you interact with students. I know that hang on a second here. I know that you interface with students and answer a lot of their questions, and so I just wanted to run some stuff by you, and also just kind of introduce you all to what we're doing, and who we are. And first of all is I want to impress upon you the fact that we are an independent university-run store. This is a really important thing to know, because most of the state-run schools in Idaho are actually leased. Their bookstore operations are leased to corporate businesses like Barnes & Noble, Follett, Texas Book Company. And so our interests are 100% based on the success of our students, not on profits, on returning profits to shareholders. And because we are a university-run store, you have anybody at the university has intimate access into anything we do in any way that we can help you. So that's number one. And we are fighting every day to remain independent and make sure that we're giving back to the university. Our text department, everybody should know, is zero profit. We price our books and any materials as low as possible, so that we are not making any money off of those materials, those required materials for students. And this is important because we do give any profit we make to scholarships. But we thought a few years ago that it was not the best thing to do to take profits from required materials for students and give them as scholarships to other students. So we eliminated that in favor of lowering all of our costs across the board, so all students get to benefit for that. That being said, all of our sales from the t-shirts you buy or sweatshirts or whatever we sell at games, etc., those all go, all of that profit goes back to the university, to the General Scholarship Fund. So good things to know. Certain scholarship recipients must buy their books from us or must get their materials from us. Some examples of some of the types of students you might work with are veteran students or any students benefiting from VOC Rehab, Chapter 31, etc. And we work with those students. We set up their accounts and make sure that they're taken care of. Athletics, if you work with athletics on advising any of those students, that's all channeled through us, and we do everything we can to get them what they need. And I just want to also, on behalf of our academic partners, as you're talking to students about materials that they might be required to get, encourage them to go through the website, through our website, using the Buy My Books Here link on their My Boise State account, because that ensures that they're getting exactly what has been requested by faculty. They're getting the additions that have been requested. And that's important because certain programs are very adherent to specific editions. So there might be a 4th edition of a book out, but they're still using the curriculum based on the 3rd edition. That's what they report to us, and that's what they want their students to have. So that's how we list things. Now, students can access third-party vendors through our website. So if they don't want to, if they find a better price on Amazon or Alibris or AbeBooks or Chegg or any of these other vendors, we list all of that for them so they can actually get to those sites through our website, but it ensures that the correct ISBN is being purchased that way. All right, so another just an important thing there. Then I wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about our Inclusive Access program, because this is probably where most of the questions are coming from now. Our Inclusive Access program we launched, did a small launch in 2019, which hit about maybe about 1,200 students, 1,200 enrollments. We are now at the point where we're seeing over 25,000 enrollments per term affected by the Inclusive Access program. It's a really great program. It ensures that whatever materials are being requested are available on the first day of class in a digital format, and that it's the most affordable price that the students are going to get. We vet all of those prices against direct publisher prices to make sure we're selling below the publisher cost on those things. So students are getting the best deal possible by staying in the program. And the great thing about that is they really don't have to do anything to stay in the program. It just it attaches the fee for the materials to their student account. And then when they go into that course's Canvas site, there's a link that instructors have to activate called, and it's just called Course Materials. You can see it there on the slide. That they click on that link and it'll take them right to their materials. So if you have students that are struggling to access materials, everything is set up to be accessed through Canvas. Now they can even opt out of those materials through Canvas or through a variety of other ways that we communicate with email. Canvas is probably the simplest way to do that. If they decide to opt out, it's important to advise them that they need to have those materials for the class. It's a required thing, so they're going to have to find it on their own. Sometimes they already own a digital copy or they own a physical copy of a book, so they don't need to purchase a second book, and that's fine. That's a very good reason to opt out of that charge. But if there's courseware attached to it, say it's a McGraw-Hill Connect product or a Pearson MyLab product, something like that, those are important that they stay in the program. A, it's going to be the cheapest version for them. It's going to save them money. And B, it ensures that it's linked directly to whichever class that they're in. If they opt out and then they go directly to the publisher to buy that courseware, it causes issues with access a lot of times. The other roadblock that we're trying to alleviate is that the refund for anybody who opts out takes a while. Student Financial Services controls these refunds. And so if a student opts out of a product, say in August, before classes start, they're not going to see a refund added back to their account until 2 to 3 weeks after that ad drop date. That's because of the schedule that Student Financials operates on. We're trying to automate that so that it's a much faster process, but that is yet to be enacted. All right, so I think I covered everything there on that screen. No codes. This is something that we used to deal with a lot, is access codes. Inclusive access has really eliminated the need for access codes. And then I'm just going to pop up this last screen here and then take any questions anybody might have. See, somebody has a hand raised.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, they automatically will get charged for this access unless they go in, they opt out of it. And what is the charge for this access?
It depends on the item. So ebooks are generally in the $30 to $50 range if it's just an electronic textbook. If it is something that has courseware attached to it, it can be anywhere from $70 to maybe $120. We try to keep everything under $100 if possible, but we're really beholden to the publisher prices on a lot of those things. So yes, the charges are added to their account, but they can opt out of those charges at any time up to the ad drop date.
So I guess, is there a fee then besides the ebook and the hard copy? Is there just like some sort of automatic fee they're getting charged that there may not?
There's nothing extra. So the fee covers the access to the content. That's all it covers.
So if they don't access the content, they won't be charged?
No, they have to opt out.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry
Yeah.
if I'm not
No,
sounding
that's okay.
clear on that, but I want to make sure I can translate.
Yeah,
that to
absolutely,
the
absolutely.
student.
Yeah. So, but just as a, as a cautionary tale, if they opt out, they will lose access after the ad drop date and will have to find it outside of our provision of that. So, and that's often going to cost them quite a bit more money. So, yeah. Looks like Anne.
Thank you.
So I had a couple questions. First off, so I know there's the opt-out, but then how does the inclusive access work if a student like drops the class in the first couple weeks?
Sure, that just works like any other fee that's going to be refunded to them with a drop. So Student Financials is going to, they'll refund whatever tuition they paid for that course and the fees associated with it. So yeah, that's how that would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this may end up being a question that needs to be answered offline, but in our department last semester, we had an instructor who basically got inclusive access to involuntarily. And I was just wondering like how to prevent that from happening again.
Well, we attempt to get everybody's input on this, and we generally wouldn't put a class into the inclusive access program without the request of the instructor. I do know that sometimes people we get instructors added late or switched in, and sometimes that takes place. And we're able to opt out entire classes if that's the case. We do generally, though, try to steer people toward the most affordable option. So If it's a new instructor that's using curriculum that is the most affordable through inclusive access, we do everything in our power to get them to use that most affordable option. If they're adamant that they don't want it, then yeah, absolutely we'll remove it, just so that, but also informing students that they're going to have to find it on their own, and it is going to be a different cost.
So I looked at the inclusive access page, and it looks like most of the questions and things on there are for students. Do you have an IA page for faculty?
There's some stuff on the faculty. There's some resources on the faculty link. And we are working on a few more advanced things that we're going to get up there for this fall. So we'll have some videos and that sort of thing for faculty as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looks like Amanda had a question.
Hi, yeah. When a student's looking at, you said their Canvas for their inclusive access texts, how would they know whether the professor has or has not like assigned materials for that?
So
if they wanted to opt out, how would they know that they needed to?
Sure. When they select that link, assuming that the faculty have activated the link, and we do our due diligence and go into Canvas and ensure that those links have been set up correctly. When they click on that link, it's going to give them, it's going to show them a picture of the item with their options, and there's a button that they can select to opt out of that item if they wish. And then we record that and send that to student financials. If it's set up as inclusive access, it will tell them what it is, so that there's some information there. And like I mentioned, we're 99.9% of the time the instructor has requested it in that format. So, and just in general, books have gone far into digital, way into digital in the last couple of years. So it's becoming actually harder to find books that are actually printed physically. So yeah. Anyway, the contact information is there. I will send out, I will also send this group a link or a sheet with this information on it, so that you have that contact information should anybody need it. But thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Michael, thank you very much for coming. Be playing that Ovation guitar, please.
Yeah, you bet.
Tom Bailey with an update from the Math Learning Center.
Thank you, Tomas. Sorry for arriving late. We had a Pi Day event out in the quad, and there was a chance that I might be getting pied in the face, but I didn't have enough students vote for me. So here I am, clean and pie free. Thanks. It's been a long time. There's quite a few of you that I have not met. My name's Tom Bailey. I am currently the acting director of the Math Learning Center. If it's a surprise, some of you are just now finding out that Gary Haggerty retired at the end of last semester. So I'm currently filling in as interim acting director, as well as continuing my tutoring and academic advising coordinator role that I've had here for quite a while. The good news is there isn't a whole lot of changes to the Math Learning Center whatsoever. We still operate and teach the Math 103, 133, 143, 144, 149 courses, as well as provide tutoring for those levels of class. The Math 123, which belongs to the math department upstairs. And then we have a calculus lab for students enrolled in Math 160, 170, and 175. Those things are still going to continue. And pretty much how we've operated since, well, I don't know, 2014 is how we're going to continue doing things. We do utilize alex.com for our students to do homework. And recently we've had a lot of questions and discussions, and I noticed in another one of my groups, participants had wondered, hey, what's the deal with Alex? What's going on with my math class? And when we don't have all the information, it gets kind of hard. So just briefly, I'm going to talk about how our courses and our structure work really quick. And then after the meeting, I'll send out an email if you'd like me to come speak to any of your groups regarding the Math Learning Center. If you have any more questions, feel free. I'm more than happy to come help kind of explain what we do. So in all of our traditional classes that we teach, they're set up in a 2-day format. So all the students are required to have access to website alex.com. They pay for a semester subscription. And there is a concrete number of topics that are required for students to complete. Now, every student comes in at a different level, so not every student's necessarily working on the same problem at the same time. So 1 day a week in the class, students are working on ALEKS, doing topics on their Pi. If they get stuck, the instructor is there to help give them a hand and get them unstuck. Second day of the week, students are working on small group activities, and they have a weekly homework assignment that's correlated to that actual homework assignment that they're learning. In our Math 143 and 144, those students use Desmos during the group activities, which have been created by our course coordinators. And then the corresponding homework assignments released, they have 48 hours to do a couple problems and upload to Canvas. Now, all of our courses have a minimum weekly time and topic goal. That means students are working on their math homework outside of the classroom. The days of getting everything you need within an hour and 15 minutes twice a week are long gone. And I think many of us understand the difference between high school and college and what's expected of us. But understandably, there's been a lot of students frustrated and or not sure what to expect when they reach college. You might be hearing from them as they come in to talk to advising appointments. You're hearing questions of, I don't understand what I'm doing or what's going on. Those are the students we want to see. So anytime you have a student who's frustrated with ALEKS, or they're not sure what's going on in their course, or they're not sure how to operate, please, 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 please send them in to talk to me. The sooner we can talk to them, the more we can help create plans for success. I work with students from Educational Access Center who have accommodations, to students who are struggling in their courses on a weekly basis, to students who've gotten a concussion and need to sit out for a couple of weeks. The biggest thing is they have to ask for help. We don't always know when something's going on, and I try and help the students access the resources on campus as needed. Side note, if you have questions regarding transferability of courses or prerequisites, you can still send those questions to me. I'll still be involved in the new student orientation in program, reg support dates. We have permission numbers for all of our courses here. They all run centrally through our department. So you can always email myself or the Math Learning Center at boisestate.edu to get those. That said, does anyone have any questions regarding the Math Learning Center, or any updates, or any burning question I can try and answer other than the first 100 digits of pi, because evidently my 10 were not enough to win a pizza?
Are there going to be any changes to the right math for this year?
There are no changes to the right math assessment. As it stands, we're currently going through the data, hopefully to have it by the end of the spring, and it looks like the majority of our students are fairly well placed. If you aren't aware, our courses are adaptable. I know you know. I will have students who start in Math 103 and they take the initial knowledge check and they're really far ahead. In our department, our policy is not to make the student take the course. If I can move them into the next level course and that benefits them and they don't have to take an extra class for another semester, then we just do it. Even though their placement score might have them at Math 103 due to the right math or ACT or SAT that they took their junior year. The other thing we do is we allow students to finish early and take early finals if they complete the material. So we're very student success oriented. That's our purpose and our goal. And if we can help move students along, that's what we'd rather do versus saying, no, you've got to take these 4 classes from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Patty had a question earlier.
No, and asked the question, so she must have been reading my mind. Good question.
Yeah, no changes to the right math assessment as of right now. We're going to keep using it. It seems to have been fairly accurate.
I was going to ask, every once in a while, and maybe you answered it in a different way. I have a student that's like, I was in math 103, but then I was told that my math assessment put me in category 5, and it seems like they're flipped. Should they just go with their gut at that point?
Not necessarily their gut. It's more of a what's their major and what class do you need? The right math. So Elizabeth can speak to this. Is Elizabeth on the meeting? We're currently having some issues with how the student system reads and accepts the correct placement. If a student puts on the right math, they're not confident in their math abilities, they're not sure what they had, they've been away from math for a while, it's going to automatically place them low. If they have test scores or something that proves otherwise, or they'd like to take AccuPlacer, by all means, let's get them there. Just a automatic category 5 placement doesn't mean you need to go take 170. Your major doesn't need that, so to speak. So they don't feel like they have to. They can always go under. But yeah, if they're unsure, yes, they can start lower and I can move them up. If that's a category 5 student and they start out in 133 and they take that initial knowledge check in the first couple of days of the semester and it proves to be, okay, I know 80% of the material, their teacher's already instructed to send them to me, and then I'll put them in a 143 and have them take the placement. It doesn't matter to us which class they end up with as long as they're correctly placed.
I had a question about the length of the ALEKS. Of course, I've seen or heard from students that they can either opt into a 3-month or a 6-month, but you said semester long. Is there a place that students need to go to make sure that they're getting the correct subscription?
So yes, first and foremost, and I know the bookstore might not like to hear this, when a student gets into Canvas and we post, here's how to get into ALEKS, we have a free 2-week trial period for them all to get in, get started, to make sure the course is there. Technically, the cheapest way is to renew their access through their actual ALEKS login. And when it says renew and they choose how long, we ask them to choose what's called an 18-week subscription that's going to get them through finals week. It's actually a couple of weeks longer because the next shortest one leaves them about 3 weeks shy. If students aren't able to pay for it right away, they can do shorter periods, right? I can elect a 5-week access, and then I know within 5 weeks, I need to go back in and renew it for another spell longer. Or if they're trying to finish early, sometimes they'll do only a 5 or a 10-week access. If you have a student who is fairly confident that they need to take Math 133 and Math 143, and they know, hey, I'm going to do this in the fall and this in the spring, they can actually purchase the 1-year subscription. And that's cheaper, way cheaper than buying 2 semesters individually. Alternatively, if we have students who are taking 143 and 144 co-requisitely, they only need to purchase 1 code. And their teachers explain that to them if they're in 143 at the beginning of the semester. We've coerced ALEKS into letting our students flip-flop their 1 paid access back and forth between the code courses.
Thanks, that's super helpful.
Any other questions for Tom? Tom, I have a question for you. It's kind of my pet question, but I feel like it really applies to the Math Learning Center and ALEKS.
Yeah.
What is the most common misconception about ALEKS and about the MLC's pedagogical approach to delivering math content?
The most most common complaint
Sure, let's go there.
that the students are having to do all the work on their own. And in a way, this is true. So our pedagogical approach is, instead of doing what we did with textbooks and saying, turn to page 86 this week, do 2 through 40 even, turn it in, whether you get it right or wrong, we move on 20 pages down the road, whether you're ready to learn that material or not. In the Math Learning Center, Tomas and I could both take that knowledge check and start with 50 topics under our belts, but I might struggle with graphing and inequalities in equations, and Tomas excels at those. And maybe he needs to work on algebraic sequences or log functions, etc. Tomas is going to work on the topics that he needs to learn, and he asks for help when he needs it. I'm not going to lecture in a class if you already know Pythagorean theorem. If you're not ready to learn that, then you're behind. And so we don't just let students sink or swim. They're working on their material that they need help with. Every topic in ALEKS has an explain button to show them one work example and how it's worked. What we do is we provide pinpointed guidance, troubleshooting to help student learn the material and move on. The probably biggest misconception is you need to memorize every topic. You don't. You don't. We've designed the class where the first portion of the topics are to get a student the solid base framework that everybody needs to know to function at this level of math. Then I would say 60% of the course is actual content that you would find in a traditional old school textbook when we went back to 55% pass rates. Then we have topics that are in the course that actually help develop students' critical thinking skills and problem solving abilities, which help in later harder things. And technically, you don't have to finish the pie, but the tail end of the stuff in your Math 133 is actually stuff from 143. We don't tell the students this because then they'll just want to stop around 230 instead of 280. But the more we can get them learning, we don't see mistakes as stopping points. We want them to make mistakes. We want the repetitive work on these topics and move through. We're here to help you. We'll even tell you which ones to study before the test. But they've got to trust the process. We'll teach them how to take notes, how to manage their time, how to ask proper questions, how to prepare for a test. So there's all of these student success pieces to where they can build their confidence in their own ability to do math that we try to incorporate into a course. That's kind of the unknown part, that we want to see them succeed. Most don't realize that we don't have any degrees or majors in the Math Learning Center. We are a part of the math department, but the vast majority of my students are not math majors. They're students getting that one college level math class or a prerequisite to get into a program before they move upstairs. And so that's kind of we don't have math majors. The majority of my students don't like math. And what we're trying to do is trying to help them understand that they can be successful at math. We've got a proven record. We're for what, 78, 80% pass rate in our courses. For our level of classes is really, really good. And so not only are they going to pass this class, we're getting them ready to pass the next one. And hopefully they can take some stuff to move on towards the rest of their education.
Thank you. Nate, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Is there a way that maybe it's written down somewhere that we can access, or a quick way for an advisor to tell whether a course is going to be based in ALEKS or not? Because I have students ask me that, and I only know from sort of gathering student trends telling me stuff, and I'd rather go straight to the source.
Yes, if they're enrolled in Math 103, Math 133, 143, 144, 149, it's an ALEKS-based course. The exception for Math 123 is the online sections that would be taught by Amanda Willoughby or Mandy McDaniel. They are both full-time lecturers in the Math Learning Center, and we use ALEKS for those web sections, the 4001, 4002, 4003 of Math 123. Now, if they're in a regular classroom Tuesday, Thursday, 10:30, 1:23. That content's all done by the math department. And so I'm not sure what they use. We kind of leave them alone. They leave us alone.
So there is a possibility that, say they take Math 123 in person, there's still a possibility that they will be using Alex, depending on.
0%.
Oh,
0% chance. Correct.
Okay, that's helpful to know, because as much as it seems like most students, I find that students tend to like Alex more than I hear gripes about it. I occasionally have a student that said, it did not work for me. How do I find a math class that is not that? So that's really helpful. Thank you.
Sometimes it does. We found that once students try it, and if they can stick to a plan and work on something, and I can lay out a plan for success because it's so adaptable every week, I can get students ahead or caught back up. In the days of we're moving chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3, if you miss that material, there's no way to catch up. And so that's one of the benefits. Then I can also see, okay, how many topics per hour is the student doing? Which topics are they struggling on? What content are they doing? Are they doing their 5 hours a week Sunday between 7 p.m. and midnight after we told them not to? Or are they spacing it out and doing an hour a day, Monday through Friday? We can actually see everything they click on and submit. So when a student comes to me after Thanksgiving or spring break and their parents are upset that their student's failing, and they say, well, you're not teaching my kid math. I say, okay, well, the syllabus says the student's required to do 5 hours a week. Here we are in week 12, and they should have 60 hours logged into Alex. This student has 9. Oh, the attendance records in Canvas show that they've attended 6% of the classes so far this semester. So I can show a student what it takes to be successful, what they need to do. But ultimately, if they don't, they can't necessarily get mad when they don't. When they start struggling, that's when it really helps to get them in person. So I can teach them how to be successful using Alex. If you never met Gary, he was quite the character, but he and I have a lot of the same philosophy that, we like to think that we're teaching students how to be successful college students, and we're using math as the tool to do it while preparing them for future classes. So that's our aim. Whether students see it that way or not is another subject.
And just to make sure I got the lists correct of the Alex-based courses, I think I call it the math pathway. It's the ones that all run in prerequisite order: 103, 133, 143, but you mentioned 149.
Correct.
144 in there.
Yes, 144 is our course as well, trigonometry.
Okay. Calculus, yes or no?
Nope. 170, 175, 275, 333. Everything beyond that is all math department. And I believe they might be using MyMathLab or WebAssign for their homework assignments. They're not Alex based.
Awesome, thank you.
Tom, thank you so much for all the information.
You're quite welcome. And
please,
I'll send out the link to the whole group.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, next up is Sharon Patterson with some updates from offerings from the sociology department.
Hi, everyone. So good to see so many Hollywood Squares there. I just got out of class for UF 100 called Is College Worth It? So I have this screen behind me, and it's a class where we have ungrading. So they have 0 points for everything. So it's been quite a fun.
You're definitely making college worth it for them then.
Exactly. It's raising a lot of questions. But thanks for the time. We'll be quick. So I appreciate that my colleague Patty is here with food behind her. Wanted to give a quick commercial and update on some things from sociology, and we'll send you the flyer. I was trying to do that. So Patty, if you have access to all of the emails from this calendar invite, if you could send that one flyer, that'd be great. So one super thing we're excited about is we have a new diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate. And it's intended to provide a sets of framework. So the beginning framework has the courses that are introducing concepts of what is a social problem, race and ethnicity. And so it's the 100 level that are all foundational studies, social science classes. So sociology 101, sociology, which is introduction to sociology, sociology 102, which is social problems, and also race and racism, which is sociology 105, which is a relatively new course. So kind of a twofer on that one. Want to give a commercial that 105, sociology 105 is an FS. It's a new course. So if students are interested in that as an opportunity, all of those classes will be kind of first layer one of the certificate. The next layer is somewhat topically based in the certificate. So they select amongst a group. So they can look at Mexican American studies, they can do gender studies, they can African American studies. And so it's a little bit risky because it feels like it should just be a topical set, but it's a way to help them think about other questions that might be culturally and historically based, in particular histories that folks have, and to begin thinking about those kinds of questions in their DEI certificate. The next layer is broader concepts such as intersectionality, inequality, and theoretical perspective. So it's that scaffolding at the 300 and 400 level. There's a set of classes there that you'll see. And then the last layer is something that's very, very important to everybody, is the applied aspect of it, because there's the frameworks of the concepts related to equity and inclusion, but also thinking about what does that look like in practice. So students will have the opportunity to kind of create their own it's not really a bolt-on experience, but they could do a research paper, they could do an intensive reading, they could attach it to an internship where they're making some observations and some proposals around what that equity and inclusion dynamic might look like in a particular context. And so that will be a something the students will be able to determine on their own. So we are running reports to see which students have already satisfied some of these introductory courses, and we'll be reaching out to them to say, hey, you just have one more class to add to this, but would also like to get it out there, particularly to majors that want that component and don't currently have that level of robust perspective on DEI that would be a great companion to business and to health sciences and to engineering. And so there's some strong connections that way. The other thing I would say that you'll see in the flyer is the reinforcement of which courses are FSs. And then also we have just added the ethnic prefix. So in the past, we just had all of our ethnic courses and our ethnic major under the umbrella of sociology. And so if students are looking in particular for ethnic things, they would have to know that it was under sociology, and that just seems complicated. And so we have now an ethnic prefix for the ethnic studies course, for example, that is 230. So it's now listed as sociology 230 and ethnic 230. And so students can be looking at the course listings from either of those doorways. And then also our ethnic studies major now actually will be searchable under the major finder, so students can find that and not, again, have to know that it's part of sociology. So similarly with gender studies is part of sociology, but also a standalone program. So I've also made note where students can be working on the DEI and a gender studies simultaneously. And what I hear from Mark Dam is that students can double count their classes in a certificate. So the additional piece will be that applied aspect. So that is my commercial, and I'm not sure if I have time for questions or any other clarifications or comments.
Yeah, you got another 5 minutes, easy.
Okay. Did I forget anything, Patty?
Nope, you've got it. I wasn't able to send the flyer to everybody. I didn't have access to everybody's email. But so I apologize for that. I could upload it in the chat if people are interested in that.
There is no chat, but if you go to the meeting invitation for this meeting, you'll find all of you'll be able to email them through that.
I forwarded her the email, so I'm not sure if that still shows all that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it right now.
Sharon, I have a question for you. I'm always curious about how new curricular offerings were conceived and the thought process behind them. Were these new offerings things that students had been asking for or curious about for some time, or was this something that department leadership or college leadership had been considering, or was it a combination of the two?
Yeah, great question. So as we look around other universities, as we hear what students are saying about their employability and being able to document those competencies, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is a component of that. And so wanted to make it easy and streamlined way to have students have an opportunity to do that. And also, as I mentioned, some universities take more of a business mechanics approach to it. And so aligning it with sociology, we really wanted to have people have a framework to think about it. We wanted people to have some ways that are the principles behind it, not just the mechanics behind it. And yet we also wanted to make sure with that applied piece at the end that it's not just talk and thoughts, that it's something that we can imagine how to do this difficult and important work. So it's kind of been coming from multiple ways. And so it just like, let's just do it. And it's a dynamic certificate. So we started with sociology as a place because when you're talking to your own family, you can be like, yeah, sounds great, let's do it. But as other folks want to have courses included, then that's something that certainly we're open to having different iterations for it. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you. Anyone else have questions? Because I could hog up all the questions right about now.
Okay, I have sent that.
Okay.
So I guess I do have a follow-up.
Yep.
And this is purely out of curiosity, not intending for it to be a provocative question, but with the way things have been recently with the state legislature and their scrutiny of offerings such as these, was there any discussion or consideration about perception of the university with the addition of these curricular offerings, which by the way, I'm really excited about, but that's kind of why I'm asking the question. Others
Sure.
might be excited about it, but for not the right reasons.
Yes and no. And I should say I mean, as the department chair and also kind of my background with the university, recognize that this is part of academic freedom. And this is an opportunity for us to provide what students need. And it's a choice. So I feel like we're very well situated that should that attention and that spotlight be put on us, that it really is an opportunity to raise the questions to say, these classes existed before. It went through the process. There is not funds that are being contributed to this. And it's an academic freedom issue to both offer it in the individual courses that make up the certificate and for us to bundle them in this way. But I was waiting for that as it went through the quality process for approval. It did not get raised. It was it's one of those things I ask myself, would I rather get in trouble or would I rather feel badly for doing it or not doing it? And I would rather feel badly for doing it than not doing it. And so I feel like now more than ever.
Thank you. Any other questions for Patty or Sharon?
Did the flyer come through? Okay, great. So we have several different versions of the preamble, and this is our first draft. I just recognizing that folks are working with students to register for the fall. So all the courses are hot linked there, so you can see that. We are going to do a QR code flyer for students to be able to pick it up and go directly to our website. As I mentioned, we're reaching out to students that have already started, so we'll be doing some other promotion, but love it if you could let students know about this opportunity and ways that they could get started, do part of it, or do any part of it, and also open to any kinds of partnering and suggestions. And so, for example, if you wanted to have some students do some work in your office around DEI things, that could be a great partnership where a student could do an audit, or I don't know, be creative with how they could do their applied portion with you, along the spirit of all things that are part of this certificate.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sharon and Patty.
Thank you for the time.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
And next up, Lindsay will give us an update on academic development and recovery activities out of AASC.
So we wanted academic development and recovery wanted to provide a bit of a refresh and review, and I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleagues. Thank you, Chelsea, for screen sharing preemptively. We really wanted to just address a few key points around probation and dismissal policy and processes. One, because they're common questions that we get from advisors as we kind of move into the end of the semester, as students start to worry about final outcomes. And two, because we want to also empower you to be able to have informed conversations with students and to answer some of these sort of commonly asked questions. So I will turn it over to, I think Caitlin's going to lead us off here.
Yes. So I'm Caitlin Perry. I'm the newest academic development and recovery advisor with this team. I've been here almost a year. Next month will be my year. And so Chelsea, you can go to the next slide. So for ADR advisors, when working with our students who are on academic probation, who have been dismissed through their academics or reinstated due to their academics after a dismissal, we are primarily looking at University Policy 3000 to take into account their academic standing. So when looking at their credit load, we take into account their cumulative credits, which are their Boise State credits and their transfer credits. And then we take into account their Boise State GPA. So for students who have taken 0 to 25 credits, their minimum Boise State GPA to be put back in good academic standing is a 1.75. And then those students who have 26 or more credits, their minimum Boise State GPA needs to be a 2.0 or higher to be in good academic standing. So when students come back after a dismissal or when they are put on academic probation, that the end of that semester is when Boise State will reevaluate their academic standing. So at the end of the semester, there's 3 different options that we talk to students about. Is if they have met that minimum Boise State GPA requirement, they'll be back in good academic standing. So again, the 1.75 or the 2.0. If they have not quite met that Boise State GPA, but their semester GPA is at a 2.0 or higher, they'll be still on continued academic probation. And you, as advisors, can see that on their unofficial transcript. It'll be under the Boise State GPA. If students have not met their minimum Boise State GPA and they have not met that 2.0 semester GPA requirement, they would be subject to dismissal from the university. I'm going to quickly through this, but so for students and dismissal, there's 3 different dismissals. Their first dismissal, they would have to sit out for 1 semester. That would be a fall semester or a spring semester. Their second dismissal, they would have to sit out for 1 calendar year. And then their third dismissal, there's no reinstatement back to Boise State. We also wanted to discuss the deadlines for students to reapply after their dismissal. So if they would like to come back for their fall semester, they need to apply with admissions by August 1st. If they want to come back for a spring semester, they need to apply by December 1st. And if they would like to come back for their summer semester, they have to apply by at least May 1st.
We get a lot of questions about the hold that students get, whether they're on academic probation or if they've been dismissed and reinstated. We have one hold for all of the different reasons a student might have to engage with our office. And that is called the probation advising required hold. That's how it shows up for them or for us when we open up our student center. Sometimes we get some confusion over why that student has that hold. If you click on the hold, it will explain one of three things that the student needs to do in order to get that hold removed. If it says, and I'll show an example on the next slide. If it says, as a requirement of your academic probation, you must complete the online probation workshop, Bronco Rebound, which some of you may know, they all have access to through Canvas. There is no advising meeting required. They're always welcome to meet with us. And of course, meet with all of you, but that hold is on there because they need to complete Bronco Rebound. They only have to do that one time after they go on probation for the very first time. If they're on continued probation, or maybe they go get off of probation and go back on probation in the future, they will only get that hold because they have to do Bronco Rebound their very first time. If the hold says as a requirement of your reinstatement, you have to meet with an academic advisor in advising and academic support to register. That's when they're coming back from a reinstatement initially, which many of you know they have to meet with both of us and their major advisor before they can get that hold removed. That process has been pretty standard since 2017. They usually meet with us first and then meet with all of you, but it doesn't always happen in that order. So once they complete both of those meetings, you can let us know whichever advisor they met with, and we'll get that hold removed. The third reason would be they have their required midterm meeting with us during their first semester of academic reinstatement. So if it says you'll need to meet with your academic development and recovery advisor for a semester check-in, they only need to meet with us to get that hold removed. Again, we may encourage them to meet with you, but the hold removal comes from meeting with us. And so here's how it may show up for all of you when you click on that probation advising hold or when the student does. If it says academic probation, you'll see Bronco Rebound down here. You just need to complete Bronco Rebound, no required meeting. If it says academic reinstatement, that's when you still need to meet with both of us. And reinstate second appointment is when they need to meet with us. There is no hold for continued academic probation. So like Caitlin was saying, students are on probation often when they have no hold. And so you all wouldn't be able to see that unless you went in their academic unofficial transcript. And so just be aware that they're not always going to have a hold. Or maybe they've already done Bronco Rebound, or they've already met with us for their follow-up appointment. You know, there isn't an obvious way on the homepage of Student Center for you to see that they're on that probation, unfortunately.
Okay, just a few reminders as we move into the end of the semester. Just a kind of reminder, we reviewed this at the end of the fall, but the immediate reinstatement process which is an appeal that goes to the University Academic Appeals Committee for those students who wish to effectively appeal their sit-out period following a dismissal, has been updated and does now require students to meet with both an ADR advisor and their assigned academic advisor, which is an update to the process. Students are responsible for completing the name has been updated, the academic plan of study for appeal, something to that effect. It doesn't roll off the tongue quite very well, but students are required to complete that where previously ADR advisors were completing that on behalf of the student effectively based on our conversations with them. But students now have to complete a pretty substantial form in addition to submitting their appeal and their letter to the committee. Unlike the fall semester, the turnaround time for students who get dismissed at the end of the spring is not as quick. They have the entire summer to kind of effectively evaluate their options and to submit an appeal, usually by the end of July. We try to do it a little bit ahead of that August 1st traditional reinstatement deadline. So we work with students all summer on that immediate reinstatement process. Just a reminder about summer reinstatement deadline. If any students reach out to you and they're interested in returning for the summer, May 1 is that application deadline. And then ACAD 102, that is our 3-credit course that we offer for students who not only are on probation or returning from reinstatement, but may have had a semester or two of academic challenge. They're just not kind of getting to where they want to be academically, or perhaps they're not meeting specific program requirements and need some support around academic skill building, habits, mindset. We are offering that in the fall as well. It's a 10-week course in person. And so for students who have some room for an elective credit, or that may be beneficial to them, we definitely encourage them to consider that for the fall. And we'll go to questions. I see Patty, your hand is raised, so yeah. Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Lindsay. So on the student being able to take the ACAD 102, will that count towards their 120?
Yeah, it's 3 credits. Yep. So it will
Yep.
count towards 120, but it is
Okay,
elective.
so it won't be one of those out there. Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. I will also give a plug. We will come to an advising department meeting, or if there's other opportunities, if there are faculty advisors or peer advisors that would benefit from more kind of in-depth conversation and training with the ADR team around all things kind of probation. We are happy and always willing to meet with you all as frequently as beneficial to your team, particularly, when new advisors can come on it. Certainly can be helpful to have more personalized conversations with folks as well. Any other questions?
Lindsay, super quick. Every now and then I get a shade of a hint of a question or an assumption in a meeting that ADR actually has a decision-making responsibility regarding students' academic status. Can you confirm or deny that, please?
Well, deny that, I guess.
Correct. Thank you.
But yeah, so all of the academic standing processes are handled through the Office of the Registrar. They communicate academic standing updates to students during that end of term processing period. And then ADR kind of steps in and does subsequent follow-up communication about the support and interventions that are available to those students.
Thank you. So just like academic advisors advise to the curriculum, ADR advisors advise to institutional requirements and statuses.
Yeah, and just one quick plug, since the drop deadline is coming up on Friday, we've started to get a lot of questions about, enrollment for summer is already started, fall is coming up. We get a lot of questions about why is my hold still on my account? That says in Bronco Rebound, and how you can help students find out what they need to do to get those holds removed. But also with the drop deadline coming up, we get a lot of questions about I want to drop this class. How does that impact probation? Students can take as many credits as they want, and withdrawing does not impact the probation. We're only going to look at their GPA at the end of the semester, whether they take 1 credit or 20 credits. It's just about what their semester and Boise State GPA. So withdrawing is totally fine by us.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we're going to finish up with some rapid fire area updates. Let's start with AASC.
Quick plug for the Advisor Summit. If you are planning on attending and you haven't registered yet, please check your inbox and fill out the Google form. Thank you.
Deadline Friday. Pretty please. Another quick plug would be because of the summit happening on April 11th, we have actually shifted the final spring UAN to April 25th. That will be primarily focused on new student orientation advisor training. That is part 1. So if you have any peer advisors, faculty advisors, professional advisors that aren't necessarily a part of this particular meeting series, we encourage you to invite those folks, send Tomas those email addresses, and he will get them added to the April 25th training. And then you can be expecting an invitation to part 2, which will ultimately be in person. And that is tentatively happening between May 16th and May 18th. More decisions and details as we get closer to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Coaz, any updates?
No updates.
Okay, Kobe,
No updates from Kobe.
education,
None for us.
okay, engineering,
None here.
health sciences, CID,
Yes, Health Sciences welcomes 2 new advisors. We're so happy to have Nate Locke and Sharon Gilchrist on our team. Thanks, y'all.
welcome. SPS,
Nothing.
okay, and extended studies, concurrent enrollment. And honors,
I think I could speak on concurrent enrollment for sociology.
okay,
There's a conversation about adding Social 102, social problems, to the concurrent enrollment offerings to the students. Discussion.
okay, thank you, Patty. Honors. Okay, everybody, that is a wrap on our spring 2023 UAN meeting series. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 25th, but as Elizabeth just mentioned, that is not a normal UAN meeting. It will focus on advisor training for new student orientation, advising, and registration. If you're not planning on doing NSO advising and registration, but you're curious about how that would work, you're still welcome to attend, though obviously the meeting would be much more useful for newer advisors and faculty advisors. With that, thank you all for the work that you do. I hope that everyone has an amazing spring break, and we will see you at the Boise State Advisor Summit on April 11th. Thank you.